sun. Here comes the sun. And I say, it's alright.
I'm Dean Wilson. This is Good Life. We're going all over the world on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and we're locally on TV Santa Barbara here in Santa Barbara, Channel 17, and we're grateful to have you with us. I have two really special ladies with me today, Grace and Debbie Fisher. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
It's great to have you. It's great to finally meet you, Grace, and it's a pleasure to have you here. I wanted to start with just talking a little bit about your family, and kind of maybe, Debbie, you could start at your family, your husband, and kind of the road up till now.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, and my husband was born and raised in Thousand Oaks. And we had a very typical family for many years. We met in physical therapy school, so we're both physical therapists, my husband and I. And we graduated from college, and we got married, and we had Gracie first. And we loved to go to the park. We loved to go to the beach. We lived down near Thousand Oaks for the first 10 years of our family life together. And then her little sister Emily came aboard, and she added some new dimensions. And I loved Gracie so much when she was born, so I was so scared when my second came along that I felt sad, because I thought maybe I wouldn't love her as much, but I did. You do.
It's funny how that happens.
You do. Just as much love for both of them. So we had a really happy life together, doing typical things that a typical Southern California family would.
Yeah. And what kind of activities were you involved in, or what would you like to do?
So my sister and I were both very active, and I started dancing when I was in elementary school, all throughout high school. That was kind of my sport. And then I started playing piano when I was around 5.
Really?
And then cello in 6th grade, and then finally guitar in high school. And so I was very much an artistic brain. So.
Wow.
Yes.
And so you were junior or senior in high school.
Yes.
And there was a medical emergency. This is now 2014 we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So you're dancing and playing music and a regular high school kid. Yep. And what happened?
Yeah, so this actually all went down on my 17th birthday party. So it was the first day of winter break, and my real birthday is November 20th, but we decided to celebrate it a month later because we were all just so busy with college applications and stuff. So it was December 21st, the first day of winter break, and around 3 p.m. when my friends were starting to arrive, I began to experience this awful pain in my neck and tingling in my arms, and it was a pain that I'd never felt before. It was a super sharp pain, and it was really scary. And so I told my mom, "Mom, something is going on, something really wrong. We need to go to the emergency room, or we need to call 911 because something is not right." So probably within around 15 minutes later, I lost the ability to walk, so it progressed.
15 minutes? Yeah,
15 minutes. So the time it took to drive to the emergency room, in that amount of time, I lost the ability to walk. And then that evening, I could no longer breathe on my own, and so it progressed that quickly. And when I was in the ER, I really had no idea how serious it was. I thought that the doctors were going to figure everything out, and then I'd just go back to my birthday party. So I was like in the waiting room, like asking my mom to take pictures. I just thought it was kind of comical. Like, of course I'm in the emergency room on my birthday party. Like, I just didn't understand that this was going to be something that was going to change my life.
So you're in the emergency room, 15 minutes, she can't walk. What are they telling you, or what's going on at this point?
I saw the look of fear around me,
Really?
not by Grace, but by the emergency room doctor. And it's a small town. I knew who he was, and there were no words spoken, but I could see by the nurses' faces, I could tell this was serious. And so my response was, I was trying to control as much as I could in an uncontrollable situation. So in the emergency room, I was trying to control everything that I could in an uncontrollable situation. So there was a little bit of blood that I saw on the bed that she was lying on, and I immediately got antibacterial wipes off.
Not my blood.
Not her blood, somebody before us. But I started wiping it down, and I tried to control everything I could. I wanted the bed to be clean, and I was listening, and I was trying to do everything I could.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was quietly praying inside because I realized this was not a situation I had any control over.
Yeah. And then what's day 2? What's day 3? I mean, she's in there, they're testing blood work, are they telling you?
So they were giving us the options of what they thought it might be, transverse myelitis, Guillain-Barré, and then it was about day 2 or 3 that a new neurologist came in and he talked to us about acute flaccid myelitis. And when I heard that, he said there's a new diagnosis called acute flaccid myelitis. We sent Grace's MRIs to Texas to Dr. Greenberg, and they laid the MRIs on top of one another, and Grace's spinal cord looked like these other cases of acute flaccid myelitis. And when they said that, it made sense to me because Grace was flaccid. As a physical therapist, I knew what that word meant. She had no tone, no spasm. She was completely flaccid. There was nothing there. And in the early days, she was so flaccid that she couldn't hold up her head. She was like a newborn baby where you had to support her head. She could not even hold up her head in the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
So they eventually said she was the 101st case of acute flaccid myelitis in the United States. And they started a bunch of different treatments to try to do something with her. And towards the end, they said, we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and we're going to give her this chemotherapy agent. And they just gave everything they could think of to try to help her situation.
Wow. And so they were trying to stop further progression.
Right, and try, once it appeared that it paused or stopped, they were trying to give her things to improve her function. And she went on a round of plasmapheresis, and I do think that, was it the stage of when she would get a little improvement, or did she actually improve? I'm not quite sure.
Wow.
But she has improved. She can hold up her head, and she has her voice, and
Yeah.
she can eat, and there's a lot of things that she could not do
At the beginning.
in the beginning.
So you went to Colorado. You went to the Craig Rehabilitation Center?
Yeah.
And what was that like? And because I read on your blog, I think, or somewhere today, you really thought everything was going to come back.
I did.
And then at what point was it where you realized this wasn't coming back? Or what was that Denver, that Colorado experience like?
Yeah, so you hear the word rehab, and I thought I was going to go there and get better. And I really didn't think of myself as a spinal cord injury either, because I didn't do anything to cause this injury to myself. So I got to Craig, and all the people there were amazing. They really cared, and it felt good to be cared for in that way. But it was probably around maybe the 6th week there, and they started to, say, okay, what color are you going to want for your wheelchair? And these long-term questions, and I was like, wait, color for my wheelchair? I thought I was going to walk home, not like need a wheelchair, and so that was hard to hear.
Yeah.
Definitely. And But at the same time, no one there ever told me I was never going to walk again. So I think I never really had anyone give me those, I never had anyone tell me I wasn't going to walk again. So I think a part of me still might believe that I too will walk again. I'm never going to give up that hope.
Yeah.
It just is definitely not as quick as I was hoping.
Yeah. Did you have a community of support around your family, or what was that like? I mean, how did the community respond?
The community in Santa Barbara was amazing, and when we got to Denver, the community there was amazing because everyone's connected. So people in Santa Barbara called their friends and their neighbors and people they knew in Denver. So I really felt like through this process that we were really supported. The day before she got sick, she played guitar and sang at a Christmas party for the Firefighters Association. And so the Firefighters Association put on a fundraiser, and with that money we got a van, an accessible van for her.
Wow.
And the associate pastor at our church had a good friend in Denver that he called, and they let us use their car. Now, I don't know if they knew how long we were going to be there. We were there 7.5 months.
Oh.
We used their SUV the entire time
Wow.
we were there.
Wow.
And people took us in and they checked on us, and people would visit, and I'd say thank you so much for visiting us. It's so thoughtful. We barely know you. And there were quite a few people that said, you know, we don't come in here for you, we come in here because we feel profound love within this room. I didn't always feel that way. I was scared. I was scared, and I didn't always feel this profound love that was holding me up, but that profound love was holding us up because I was walking, and I was able to be there for Grace in a way that I don't think that if you would have told me I had to do this, I don't think that I would say I would not be able to do it, but I did.
Right.
And we're still doing it.
Right. And so this is like a new life. I mean, and so we're 5 years in almost. What's it like? I mean, obviously it's very difficult, and there's been huge challenges you faced, but then I read about what you're doing and your foundation, which we'll get to in a second and all that, but what's it like now? Or how would you characterize this new life that you were kind of forced into?
Yeah, so I think prayers carry you in many different ways, and I heard all the time that, you know, we're praying for your family, we're praying for you. And at first I was like, okay, I hear this all the time that I'm being prayed for, but yet I'm not getting any better. But at the same time, our family was so supported in so many different ways, and I really never went through a deep depression or anything. My soul was always very, very much positive, and I felt good. And so I feel like those prayers were maybe just presented in a different way than I was expecting. So
maybe they help sustain you. Is that
yeah,
yeah.
And I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm being supported every day. So I don't know if that really answered.
Yeah. And you must have gotten really close to your mom.
I did.
Because you guys are probably always together.
Our family has always been close. I've always been close with my parents and my sister, but I think this has definitely brought us closer. You know, one of my blog posts I talk about my mom and I read a book together, and it asked like ask whoever you're with what their favorite flower is. And it was like, if I was at college, I would never be asking my mom like what's
your favorite flower?
Her favorite flower is. Yeah, so we're learning new things about each other every day, and I'm really grateful for that, because I don't think a lot of kids my age really have those conversations with their parents.
Your household now, I mean, do you have help in the house? Is it, how does this change your family? What's it like?
Well, December 20th, 2014, she was super independent, and one way our relationship has changed is Grace would never sit still. She would never sit down next to me for more than 5 minutes. She couldn't sit through a movie. She was always on the go. She had 5 piano students. She had a cello student. She was always doing something. Now she's stuck with me. And the first year we were in a hospital, and Grace, she was never left alone, because she could not push a call button. She couldn't really hit her head with the call button anyway, so we were always with her.
Together.
And so when we came back to Santa Barbara, our house felt so big, because I was used to living in one bedroom with her, and my husband eventually had to come back to go to work, but we would switch off. When we first got to Denver, he'd spend a night with her, then we'd switch off. One of us would stay with the little Emily in the family housing, and the other one would stay with Gracie. So when we came home, the house felt big and it was scary, and I thought that we would have a lot of nursing help. I thought that we would have much more support than we did, and I was scared and I felt alone. But Craig Hospital gave me the tools to take care of her, and I just knew what I had to do. And so I just kept, it's like becoming a physical therapist. You have a knowledge base. That's what you do as a therapist. And my knowledge base changed when we were at the hospital. There were so many functions. I mean, I had to I still do, get her on and off a ventilator every night.
Really?
Every morning. She's on a ventilator every night. And that seems like second nature to me. Her little sister can do it. But of course, at first it was really scary.
Yeah.
So we've had intermittent nursing, and that is something that we struggle with, but I feel like we're in a really blessed state right now. I played beach volleyball this morning, and I'm grateful for it. And so when we have nursing, I try to get out there and I try to do things to kind of fill my well and give myself a little oxygen. And then when we don't have nursing for whatever reason, because somebody gets sick or whatever, then I have the tools that I need to take care of her. And I'm blessed to be around her. She's really positive, and not everybody would take it so gracefully. So
yeah, you have the right name.
Yeah.
How do you stay positive? What do you think about? I mean, how's your attitude, what it is?
Honestly, a lot of it has to do with my family and the people that are around me. I don't think I'd be as positive as I am without such an amazing family. I mean, and friends. I have a really great group of friends too, and so I think that's really sustained me. And I think I really try to keep myself busy, so I'm not just sitting around feeling sorry for myself. Yeah. Because that's easy to do too. So I really try to stay busy.
Yeah. How has your perspective changed just in life? And full disclosure, I mean, we have a brain injured daughter. It was very different than this, in that Ella Claire's injury happened in the womb. She had a stroke in the womb, so we never knew a different life than what we have with Ella Claire. She was born with brain injury, and so, and yet, even though it happened in the womb, we had a perspective change, and life changed. And I could talk about that for a program. Maybe I'll interview myself someday.
You should.
But lots of good things have come from that perspective change. But I'd be interested to hear how has your perspective on life changed since this all happened?
After living in the hospital for 7 months, when I came home, Grace and I would sit and look out the living room window, and we'd say, Grace, look at the hummingbird, look at the bee that's in the flower. And I always had an appreciation for nature, but I think that the appreciation we have for the beauty that's around us, beauty in nature, but beauty in people. And it's very easy to say, oh, why hasn't that person, I thought that person was close to us and they haven't been by to visit. It's very easy to go down to the path, but Grace helps me. Like, you don't think about that. Think about the practical stranger that gave us their car for 7 months. You have to kind of keep yourself in a perspective of positivity. And one of the things that we talked about early along is it's so painful to look at the past, and it's scary to look at the future. So you have to live in the present. So my perspective of truly trying to live in the present,
Right.
that has probably been the biggest change. Yeah. But I still get anxiety over my younger daughter who stays out late. Like, you'd think, like, after something like this, that maybe you wouldn't have anxiety with your other kids, with other things, but you still get it.
Right. So I want to talk about the Grace Fisher Foundation, and I was reading today on your blog, which, by the way, is a great title for a blog, savinggracesb.com. So I'd encourage our viewers to go to savinggracesb.com. But you talked about in one post about redefining possible. And I think with the Grace Fisher Foundation, working with special needs kids, my understanding is you're bringing in the arts, music, art, and dance. Talk to us about that. Where did this come from, and what is your vision for the Grace Fisher Foundation?
Yeah, so when I was at Craig, the phrase redefining possible, that was posted everywhere. That was on their bridges. That was kind of their catchphrase. And when I was there, they introduced me to art and music therapy. And that was really a good way for me to get out of my head. Out of thinking about, what I'd lost and what procedures might lie ahead. I was really staying in the moment, and that was really important when you're going through a traumatic change like this. So that was where I was introduced to music and art. And I just realized how much it helped me when I was there, and I wanted to bring that to other kids in Santa Barbara that also might be dealing with a disability or a special need of some kind. And so that's really where my idea came from.
And you paint with your mouth.
I do. I paint with my mouth, yeah.
That's amazing.
So I put a paintbrush in my teeth and I paint, and at first that was really a good way for me to strengthen my neck. And at that time at Craig, I was like, oh, I have to go to another physical therapy session. Like, it was just something that I really didn't look forward to, but with art, it was a good way for me to strengthen what I did have without thinking about it.
Right. So doing something versus just sitting there and thinking about what you've lost. You mentioned what you've lost was good for you.
Yes, definitely.
And then you also can do it. You can paint.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
And are you teaching, so on the art side, you'd have a special needs group?
So we host art workshops.
Okay.
Yeah, so we use the facility at the First United Methodist Church. They have a really great facility there that we host our workshops in, and I think the last time we had it, around 100 kids showed up.
Is that right?
So yeah, it was
All
quite a big
special
group.
needs or just some?
It's combined, but mostly special
Mixed.
needs, but it's mixed.
Mixed,
So we say
Wow.
kids of all abilities. And so
So it's a mix.
yeah, and the functions like the picnic at Tucker's Grove, it was picnic and art. The families came, and the nice thing about that is that what I'm hearing from a lot of the parents is they have a place that they can take either their special needs kids or their typical kids, but not a place that everybody has something to do.
Right.
And so I think it's been really powerful to have the families come together
Yeah.
and meet one another, and you see how small the world is. One of the gentlemen that came, he said, you know, you and I went to high school together. I didn't realize the father and I had gone to high school because Gracie and I both graduated from Santa Barbara High, but me quite a few years before. And he has a daughter that loved the day of art that Gracie provided. And so kind of reconnecting through her days of art and her activities.
And music. So what does music look like for you now? I mean, or how's that part of the foundation program?
So before I got sick, I was supposed to go to music school. So I played piano, guitar, and cello, and that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I always thought that music was going to be a part of what I was going to do for the rest of my life. It was my passion, and when I lost the ability to play music, that was really hard. But technology has really made it possible for me to compose music. So I'll be going to school for that in the fall.
Really? Music composition?
Yeah.
Wow. Is there anything online that we can find and listen, or?
I have stuff on my YouTube channel. Some.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
What's your YouTube channel called?
I think it's just under Gracie Fisher.
Gracie Fisher. So I want to encourage people to give to the Grace Fisher Foundation. I'm assuming private donations is kind of how you, and so I want to encourage folks to do that. Our foundation is going to be involved with that, and I think it'd be great for people who are listening to, watching, to give to that, because that sounds wonderful. You know, special needs is such an interesting thing, and we're a special needs family now for 17 years, and I think the suffering and the intensity and the emotion, you know, somebody once told me it's kind of like having a bomb dropped on your family in terms of it affects everything. The finances, the future, the emotions, the marriage, the other kids. And I think it can send you in one direction or the other. I think it can blow it up, and I've heard that 80% divorce, or I think it can take you to a whole new level of depth and love and perspective change. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And your family seems to have gone.
And it has to do absolutely with your saying with the perspective. I remember apologizing to my husband, saying, I'm so sorry I'm not being much of a wife. And he said, you're much more of a wife than I ever thought I could have, because you're taking care of our daughters. See, you're only one person. You can only devote so much attention. So he has to be on board about the bigger picture.
Right.
To be on board with that, because I wouldn't be able to give him as much attention perhaps as I once did.
You can't.
I can't.
And on that note, your life's changed in this process. And one of my theories is I think that we're never more alive than when we're giving our lives away. And of course, the scripture talks about no greater love than when you're laying down your life for your friend. What have you experienced in that way in terms of joy, or what in the process of kind of turning in your life as you knew it for this new adventure of laying down your life for Grace?
When I was a little girl, I remember my grandmother taught me a prayer, and she said, you know, when you feel lost, you know, just ask the Lord to guide you. You know, God, lead me the righteous way. And I just remember just mumbling that throughout this experience with Grace, and I feel like I have been lifted, and I have been given great peace. So, you know, this happened December 21st around Christmas. I had such a profound sense of peace that I know did not come from me. It did not come from me. It came from all the prayers that were being poured towards us, and God's love was still there amidst such tragedy.
Yeah.
And you talk about perspective and joy. It was such a high to watch Gracie dance and her piano recitals, being a madrigal. What a great honor to be in madrigals. The highest choir that I didn't get near that when I went to Santa Barbara High. Those were such highs watching that. Many people, it might be soccer, their kid gets a goal. For me, it was her performance. And I always knew that her positive energy and her light was such a gift. And I always would say, you know, gosh, God, thank you for her positive energy. I'm so grateful for her effervescent energy. But after all of those physical talents were stripped away, she still has her positive light. That is great joy. It gives me great joy to see that she still has that light within her. And I think that what other parents can learn from you and I who have had children with difficulties is that there's something that is far beyond what their physical capability is.
Right. Good point. Yes.
And they need to be loved, and they love us. And truly, that is the most joyful thing we can experience.
Yeah. I had a friend tell me once, the spirit is deeper than the cortex of the brain. And I can see it all over your smile, all over your face. You have this glow, you have this joy, your spirit's probably never been more alive, even though your body is struggling. And I see the same with Ella Claire. You know, there's just a spirit, a joy that she changed our life. She changed our family because of that. She's not running marathons, but she brings that, and it's an incredible gift. I wanted to mention this, and so there's this balance for special needs families where today is the focus. You really can't do much about tomorrow, and you don't really want to maybe necessarily think about yesterday. We have today, and we want to get better, and I want you to get better and have the best experience you can have on earth. I want my daughter to get better, you know, because we want that to make life better on earth. But I also read this scripture today from Philippians 3. It says, "But our citizenship is in heaven. We eagerly await a Savior who will transform our lowly bodies so that they will be like His glorious body." And I wonder if you ever think about a new body and the truth and the hope of that. Do you ever think about that? Is that encouraging to you?
Yes, I do think about that. But at the same time, I only see what's right in front of me, so that's a really hard concept to fathom. But I do think about that often, and we have. So one of my old doctors, he comes over and reads the Bible to us on Fridays, and he will bring up concepts like that really make me hopeful for heaven and for my next life. But all of those concepts are really hard to understand, especially when we're living on earth and this is really all we know.
Right.
So my faith is always growing, and I'm always questioning it, which I think has been good for me in the long run.
Yeah. Well, you guys are an inspiration, and we look forward to partnering with the Grace Fisher Foundation, and it's really encouraging to meet you and hear your story, and I think it'll be encouraging to a lot of other people too. So
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So I want to thank Debbie and Grace Fisher for joining me today. I want to say to anybody at home who might be a special needs family or know a special needs family, I hope this has been encouraging to you, that there is life, there is joy that can come in the middle of suffering. There's hope, And we hope it's been an encouragement to you. So wherever you are, God is good, you're good, and this is Good Life, and we'll see you next time.
It's alright.